banners come yet?
Let's see.
No, it was put in last week. But I was going.
Chris, are you favoring an unlimited data plan? Because I thought
Yes.
you've been using it lately.
Yes, you do.
Did you plan decide what you're gonna do anymore?
I've had, someone just asked me when the public works day is. And
Yeah,
I'm going, I know I saw that somewhere. I took a picture and sent it to her.
I mean, because I think also, at least I know on my parents' street, they've been cutting through like old cables. They don't need
Can I
to
take,
them down, so maybe they
like,
accidentally.
I've got a big thing of paint stain.
Well, thank you all for being here for tonight's city council meeting and work session. It's March 11th, 2024, and first get started with our roll call.
Bruce Cosby. Here. Jessica Andrade. Present. Diana Crawford.
Here.
Matt Lehman.
Here.
Christopher McMorrin.
Here.
Chad Jones.
And here. I apologize for the technical difficulties. The city, Pioneer Connect is the internet's down, and so our internet we were live streaming via hotspot tonight. So if there's any technical issues, we will mark it up to that. But tonight during work session, we're going to be talking about the draft strategic plan and pre-budget discussion. And we have two different versions of the strategic plan in front of us. One is the one that we're most familiar with the photos, and another is a more focused version that I was planning to use tonight that has specifically items that are designated for by year, which includes this year, last year, etc., and then ones with specific budgetary impacts for us this year. And the idea is that we can go down this list, identify anything that was supposed to be done or was marked for last year. Is that still a priority, and do we want to address it? And if it was last year, anything that has dollar amounts identified, are those things that we want to do this year, or anything we want to push off the year, etc. Are the things that are missing from this list that we're anticipating to be seen. And so I just thought we could start kind of just scanning down through the list and seeing if there's anything that jumped out at you on that first page. Councilor Cousin?
This is not in direct response to your question, but as I was looking at the strategic plan, I remember the first strategic plan I looked at about 5 years ago. And this is so much more robust and complete. And it was pretty fragmented and kind of isolated issues. And I'm sure there are things that can be added to this, but I just wanted to compliment Chris and all the effort that went into bringing this to the state it is today. Thank you.
Every time we start pulling out strategic plan, I mention to Chris, I'm like, okay. So how can we improve this? And he always comes up with it, make it better and better every time. Because it used to stress me out. I mean, we used to try to go through this all the time. And it would take it was 6 months to get through it once. I'm not joking. And it was rough. Yeah, that was the council.
I know, not to harp on that, but I'm also very grateful for this and for the fact that we are able to do it in-house with our wonderful staff. I know some jurisdictions pay a lot of money to consultants to do it, and I think I've gone on rants before about how I think sometimes paying a lot of money to consultants is a waste of money when it's something we can do, and I think this is a great example about something that not only can we do, but I think we're doing well. And so I want to thank, and I know it takes a lot of time, so I'm not trying to just act like you threw it together. I know we pay for it through your salary, but I'm very grateful for that.
Chris, didn't you start this?
I did. So we used to do, the council's always set goals. We used to set goals, kind of just looking a couple of years out, and what I found was it was difficult to get council to look at things that were 2 or 3 or 4 years out. Because elections were only every 2 years, so they wanted to know what am I going to get in, set some goals for a couple of years, get that done so I can show constituents what I've done in the last 2 years. Or just, I want to get things done and then I'm going to come off the council and I'll leave things hanging for other people have to do. So a lot of the goals were a little more short-sighted or kind of like our action items essentially, were what are the goals of the council were like, what do I want to do this year or next year? And this, I think, has allowed us to look a little more long-term and take on bigger projects that we know are going to take more than just 6 months or 8 months to get accomplished. But yeah, I mean, this has definitely got Paloma spirit in it, but you know, it's been tweaked. I mean, this isn't completely original to Paloma. I think this went through a couple of versions through Albany and Harrisburg and a couple other places before I got a copy and looked at theirs, and then I tweaked it to what I was hearing from the council as that's going to work for them. So, but it has come a long way, and I think there's a lot to it. The previous councils have put a lot of time and effort in this as well. The management team as a body has looked over this numerous times and helped. So I definitely appreciate the compliments, but there's a lot of credit to go to a lot of people to get us to where we are. And the whole idea, and part of the reason for the new format you're looking at tonight, is to really make this a working document, that it doesn't sit on the shelf. That's been the whole point, right? So what you don't see on your version tonight is additional columns out here that includes the staff members that have been assigned, when throughout the year, you know, July through June, are the tasks going to be tackled by that member, specific notes, hang-ups, any of that information. That's what we'll be looking at from the staff level. So we're going to try to, going forward, kind of work off of the same thing and convert the strategic plan into essentially our work plan going forward, and help us with calendaring and spacing things out throughout the year and not taking on more than what we can do for the staff level. So it does continue to improve and will continue to function as a document that works for us and works for council.
As I thumbed through this, I see there's only 2 items that were slated for this year in here that I think still need to be addressed and deciding whether or not it's a priority I want to move forward. Under goal 2.2, there's one. We evaluate time, place, manner restrictions that prohibit targeted businesses. I believe that was around cannabis shops. And then under goal objective 5.1.3, having the police committee review opportunities around new neighborhoods for electric vehicles and return to the council with proposed regulations to implement the use of electric vehicles in our community. Is this related to Councilor Lingman's little golf cart idea?
Yeah, we didn't really talk about prioritization when we added this, because this just got added a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And we didn't really talk about, are we doing it right now, or are we looking at later? And I think I might have said, let's talk more holistically, see what this looks like, and bring this back. And so I dated it for this year because it could happen quickly, or if it's not a huge priority, we can bump it out as well. So I'm looking for direction from the council on the date and the timing of that. But I don't see any cost up front other than just some time and prioritization.
And there's no cost to either of those. But Councilor Moore.
Just for that one, was it about the golf cart stuff, or was it about, I read it as more about city.
Oh, no, well, the one that I proposed was about citizen owned.
Okay.
Like,
Because I remember I just don't remember, is that what that one?
Yeah, the neighborhood electric vehicles. But we did also talk about
Right.
transitioning to electric vehicles.
Yeah, it's a different objective.
Okay, sorry, I got this
Somewhere
somewhere
else.
Would you know which one it is? I just must have missed it.
I think it's good neighborhoods, great neighborhoods.
And Council Lehman, on that action item, is it specific, do we need to call out electric vehicles, or are we just meaning small vehicles that, you know, my dad has a gas operated golf cart,
Yeah, it was
small?
Yeah.
Generally illegal.
vehicles that wouldn't be allowed on the state highway, for example, but we could let them on their local streets.
You know,
Objective 462 is the low and lower emissions vehicles. We're looking to replace city vehicles.
Oh, great.
It's an objective without an action item, so it's kind of an ongoing, but we don't have any like action item we're doing with that. We look and consider when we need to swap out vehicles, and I typically leave that most up to the department heads to make sure they're evaluating that when they're looking.
so it sounds like for the police committee electric vehicle discussion, is it really just, we just need to have, the chief to also kind of assess the idea and write a staff report and discuss it at this phase?
So I'm envisioning for first step. So like I said, we can do it this year, so it's on 23, 24 still. We can do it between now and July.
Awesome.
Does that sound good?
I think the only thing on that is just making sure it's low and lower emission. So I would hate for the chief to write a report that's just like, yeah, electric vehicles won't work, but like maybe hybrid vehicles will work or something, like just.
I thought you were gonna say you don't want people driving around in their lawnmowers,
Well, hey.
just spewing fumes everywhere.
But actually, but you know, down in, what's the name of the community down south of, well, North Bend, there's lots of little gas powered, you know, ATV things running around. Are those, do you also want to review those? Or not electric?
No, I think specifically I wouldn't because of the noise.
But should we address all of it at once? Or
Wait, which,
do we have to have a certain decibel level? Do you want a gas powered golf cart or one of those things? Or, I mean,
I'm happy just to make it electric if it's gonna be complicated.
just to clarify, mine was about city vehicles.
yeah, and I was just trying to address this one and just,
So use as a preventative measure, is what you're suggesting.
I'm not suggesting anything at all. All I'm saying is this item, this action item, do we want to just address it period? Whether it be electric only or gas or hybrid.
I think we should look at how fast they go.
Please make look at that and decide all those kinds of details. I think.
Because I think that might also dictate what we would allow, we wouldn't.
So why don't we just have the police committee discuss that, and if they want to discuss gas, hybrid, electric, whatever.
And the idea is that you still have to be licensed and street legal and insured and all that other stuff. Exactly. Stuff like that. I have to have a driver's license. So, things like
Are you on the police committee?
that.
So, yeah, okay, so they can still address that. And then back to the other one. Goal 2.2, under that, reevaluate time, place, manner restrictions that prohibit targeted businesses. Is this still something you want to do this year or next year or at all? Councilman Brown?
I think that it is something we should still pursue, because it doesn't just affect cannabis businesses, dispensaries, or any other kinds of related businesses. It will also affect other kinds of businesses, because I believe we were talking not just about time, place, manner restrictions, but also just any, really. I know it says that on there, but if I remember correctly, we were trying to broaden the conversation to like, how can we allow more businesses to, like, how can we allow them to start up, but
What other businesses have time, place, manner restrictions other than cannabis and mushrooms?
Yeah, like,
Is that a city thing or is that a state thing?
Those are regulated by the state.
But don't we have restrictions as well in our code for them?
Not for alcohol sales. No, I mean, this really is specific. I mean, when we adopted time, place, manner restrictions for businesses, it was directly related to dispensaries, marijuana dispensaries, and it was when the recreational marijuana was approved, so it wasn't medicinal, it was recreation. But the language that we adopted was any dispensary, whether it be recreation or medicinal. The time, place, manner restrictions were still in place to capture both of those. So I don't want to go too broad. I mean, this was pretty specific on why we implemented time, place, manner restrictions on these businesses, and there were things that were identified by the Attorney General that are different about dispensaries than just a retail shop or any other type of shop, which is why they recommended time, place, manner restrictions be adopted for them. So it is pretty targeted. So I don't want to go too broad thinking that it's anything. I mean, it was pretty specific to these types of businesses.
To clarify, when I had brought it up before, I had specifically talked about like reevaluating what our stance was on cannabis, and like opening it up for more discussion with the community. And then, if I remember correctly, it turned into time, place, manner restrictions just because by the implication of the conversation, I thought that meant there were other businesses, types of businesses that were potentially affected as well. But either way, I still think it's an important thing to discuss. And it could be the subject of one of our town hall meetings that we're planning on trying to have.
Councilor Parker?
Along those lines, the psilocybin, I think we have a 2-year moratorium, so it's coming up this year. So I think we need to add that conversation. I think we should have a conversation about that. But I don't want to stick with that about the psilocybin.
We haven't forgotten. We discussed it about when it's appropriate to be on the agenda. Not yet.
Looking to bring the new attorneys on board and have that discussion with them and give their recommendations.
Also be nice to get some data from the places that do have.
Which they'll have access to. They represent cities that implemented, they represent cities that put the moratorium in place. They have ones that just did the outright ban initially, so they've got a pretty good selection of data that they can pull from to help inform us.
So on this topic, if I remember correctly, I received probably 15 to 18 anti-cannabis emails at the time when we were discussing this. Whatever, is it something we want to pursue more? Is it something we want to add to move it to next year? Keep it on the agenda or keep it on the strategic plan?
I think it's a good idea to have that as part of the town hall scenario. I think that certain demographics are overrepresented in email correspondence with the city council versus in-person kind of stuff.
So could I recommend that we just bump that out a little bit to the 24-25 calendar fiscal year then? And we include with that action item, the look at the moratorium that's in place. And then we can kind of couple those together a little bit. And as Councilor Andrade is saying, kind of make it a little more comprehensive discussion about restrictions that we're putting on businesses coming into town. And we can look at the psilocybin, and we can also look at dispensaries for marijuana.
Am I misunderstanding the psilocybin? I thought like January we need to do it. So saying 24-25 wouldn't work. It would be 2 years.
Well, it'll be fiscal year 24-25. So it should just be after July.
Starts in July.
The way it's written now, it's between now and July. And I'm concerned about being able to get new city attorneys and data and all that. So I'm just asking to bump it out to after July.
People agree with that idea?
I guess my only thing is like, then we're basically agreeing you would make the decision. Because like if we wanted the voters to make a decision, like figure it out by July or. Yes.
Talk to Chris, it was July and August, right? That's when we have to have something into the the legal format that they can review, discuss, or put into the packet.
Right, so I'm just saying, if we're kicking it out past July, we're basically agreeing that we will be the ones to make that decision, not the voters. So just, I think that's something to keep in mind, but just, we're kind of taking that option off the table, we don't start talking about it. So,
I think we need to hear from the voters.
So we'll keep it on before July, then we'll prioritize that.
I mean, I'm just putting it out there however we feel about
It's a
it.
good, it's a good thought.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Do you think we have enough time to do both the psilocybin and the dispensary conversation?
Yeah, I don't wanna come across too naive here, but I think it's a pretty similar conversation, and I think you're gonna have similar people on one side or the other. So I don't think having two separate conversations, we're gonna glean anything more from that side of the wall.
I think if we have to, we should prioritize psilocybin just because there is this ticking clock for our two, where it's like, if we don't do anything about marijuana, everything stays the same. Until we do something.
I agree.
So can you refresh my memory? Did we have to send it to the voters last time, or did we choose to do that?
We chose to send it to the voters. We could have,
For cannabis.
for the
Oh, yeah.
psilocybin. For the cannabis as well, we could have sent it out.
Or we decided to do that as a council?
We did time, place, manner restrictions rather than a ban.
Given the amount of city meetings that occur during the budget season, it feels like June is gonna be realistic. Do you agree, or is it?
Well, again, I need to reach out to the new attorneys and get on their calendar, so
Okay.
let me talk to them. Also, let them know it's a priority. We talked about it on onboarding, but in my mind, it was later, so let me just talk to them and squeeze it in a little bit sooner. Tell them it's a priority.
Council Brown?
If we are able to have both conversations before, July, then I request that whatever, like, if we end up having something taken to the voters, that the issues be separated, because there is a difference, even though people might be in favor, there might be a trend of people being in favor of both or against both. It's not always the case. They're interrelated, but very different.
I agree.
Just to clarify again, don't we have to go to the voters for the psilocybin, or else it automatically becomes okay? We don't have the option to make the decision ourselves. I thought.
I've got to revisit it again. I don't remember the exact thing.
It seemed what I recall was you could do the time, place, and manner restrictions in place of a ban. And then this third option of doing the moratorium was floated, so we did the moratorium just to kind of see what was happening. So I don't think we have to go to the voters if we decide to do time, place, and manner restrictions instead. It would just be the state rules and whatever we put in place.
That seems to resonate with my memory too.
But don't quote me on that.
Just to be clear, I'm not saying we necessarily have to go to voters, I just think we should talk about it before that deadline passes. Like, worst case, we just talk about it, like, yeah, we don't need to, we all feel pretty clear about this, but yeah.
Okay, so we've addressed the things that were set for this year. Anything else that jumps out at you as you scan down through the year? That's positive.
Item or goal 1.2, objective 1.2.1. Implement a new website with improved functionality and accessibility. Can you just describe briefly what that is, and also the technological advances for hiring and retention?
No, let Chelsea address both of those.
Yes, our current website provider was bought out by a larger company. It's been a couple years ago. And they want to do a bunch of upgrades. They're launching new platforms. But in doing so, it's going to increase our costs substantially. And it is a new service that they're providing. So my understanding in meeting with them is that they've had a lot of other municipal type companies, but this is a new platform for them doing the websites for municipalities. So we are basically being forced to either just say we're fine with it, we'll just spend the extra money, go along with them on their ride to learn how to do municipal websites better, or go out and actually look for, which includes them, right? But to open it up to look for providers that could meet our current needs. So we're basically being put in a situation where we're going to have to spend more money on our website potentially, unless we want to look at options that are in the realm we've been spending. But I will tell you that the functionality of websites and the cost margin that we've been in are very limited, even more limited than what we currently have. There's just been a lot of changes in municipal websites over the past few years. There's a couple of companies that have been buying out a lot of the providers. And in some ways it's great because they're providing really great services for cities, but that there are costs to all of that. So we basically have to explore it. We decided to put it in here because we know it's going to take staff time to explore it. And either choice that we make to stay with our current provider or switch is going to take implementation. It's a totally different platform that they're suggesting. So that's that portion. In doing so, our hiring process, our applicant process is pen and paper, basically. We do have kind of fillable PDFs. We're just not keeping up with other cities, quite frankly. Younger generations are very used to being online, doing everything online, and we're just concerned that we're not keeping up with that. So we want to try to utilize or look into using some platforms that a lot of other cities are using, so that it's very streamlined for, if I'm a city worker. Even when I applied for this job, I had my application in a pretty well-known application, platform, and I could just go from platform to platform, change my questions, but apply really easily. So we're just trying to be more competitive. It is getting harder. Applications are getting fewer and fewer for all cities, and we just want to stay on top of that curve. And it also gives us more capabilities with like tracking the applications, kind of sorting them in different ways, getting data from them. So we'd just like to have the opportunity to look into that and see if that's something that we want to do for the city.
This may be a naive or dated question, but if you have a website, do you have to hire someone to do whatever?
Oh, the website? No. Ruth really has done most of the website here. And then when I came here as well, I have website experience. So I've done some things. We're trying to train some of our other administrative staff, like at Public Works and Police, to be able to also help utilize the features on the back end. So no, we intend to keep doing that ourselves, and just work with, Ruth saying that she's going to potentially leave us. We're trying to make sure that we have more staff here who can help out to spread that, work.
So what does the firm you work with, what do they do?
They have all sorts of, they were listing off a lot of different things that they do. It was probably a year ago that I talked to them. I don't remember exactly what they did, but I do think their platform that they have has more functionality than we currently have. The cost is up, though, with some other website platforms that we're aware of and have kind of looked at over the last year to see if this is a direction that we might need to take. We might be able to get some better functionality. We're looking at the outreach, public outreach, having that capability to communicate with the public, be more transparent, and we'd like to see that in a website if we're having to spend more.
So what you purchase from them is the platform that implements it.
Basically, yeah. So they have, they'll help us design the website, teach us how to use the back end of it. Things like that. Yeah.
Can I just add that, interestingly, we rebuilt this website in COVID in 2020, and we're already to 2024, time flies. And it is not unusual in this day and age for websites to need that level of reevaluation in order to keep up with functionality and new opportunities to do things better.
Thank you.
Thank you. I did notice that there's another thing in 2023, 2024 about complete environmental cleanup of 14th Street property with a price tag of $50,000.
Yeah, so it's a grant that we're applying for with Business Oregon. I sent a first draft in and got it back with a few revisions that need to be done to resubmit. So that's on the list to get done this fiscal year still. So I just left it on there. What's happening. It might spill over into next year depending on timing.
Councilor Crocker?
1.2.2, specifically considerant of low-income households. I was looking through this today and noticed that there's not a huge drop for low income on the utility fees here. And is that consistent for water and everything else? I guess that is.
So that'll be part of the rate study that we do. We know we're gonna have to hire a consultant to come and do the rate study for us. Sorry, Councilor McMorrin. That is not something that we have within our wheelhouse here at staff. We'll get a much better product by contracting that out, and they're gonna be very familiar with different options the city could look at to help with low-income households. So that's kind of a sub-action of the top one, but I wanted to include that specifically. It's been discussed here to make sure that we're looking at low-income households and how they're impacted by utility fees. So that'll be looked at as part of that rate study.
And along with that, when we look at the non-sufficient funds for a check, it's $50, and the people that don't have the sufficient funds, $50 is a lot for them to have to pay.
So
I know we don't want them to get into that situation.
So I think that's on my list of looking at those fees that got assigned to me. That's a different item to look at the fee schedule. So that's the next action item below there. So I will be looking at all of that next year, looking at all of those fees. I will tell you that that one specifically we just updated because I think we were still down at like $20, and that doesn't really even cost doesn't cover the cost for what it takes us to follow up on those insufficient fees. So you do want that to be high enough that you don't just get a bad check so that you get the water turned back on and then we have to restart the whole process again. So it is intended to cover our costs and to be a little bit punitive or high enough punitive that we don't get bad checks intentionally. I will say that our staff does a very good job of working with people when they get into difficult situations, and it's not uncommon for us to get requests from them at the management level to waive fees where we can, and so we do a very good job of working with people.
We could put like a voluntary, like on your bill, your utility bill, for like $10. Yeah, $5 a month or whatever, $10 a month, offset.
Sure, we could, and we'd have to track it.
Okay.
Comment.
I mean, if you go in the water fund, then I mean, technically it is offsetting.
Where's the other remote?
A little bit, yes, yeah.
For low income people, yeah. To that, I don't think it'll be a lot, but some
Yeah.
people.
Some people wanna go to heaven.
Yes. Themselves there.
Either way, either passage.
Bad. Maybe also societies.
Too awkward, it was.
I just thought it was